welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Just when you think your crop has made it, you find some more bugs out there feeding at it, maybe even clipping off some pods. We're going to talk about some late season insects and when you need to worry about them and when you can finally breathe a sigh of relief.
Well, fall is right around the corner, and that's the time of the year when we talk to you a lot about soil testing. So today we want to talk a little about how you can do that soil testing and how to get prepared for this fall.
We have a tough to control weed of the week, but first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we'll talk about something that many farmers across the country use to help the soil pH on their farms and even the calcium levels in their operations. That is lime.
All right, when you hear from a soils lab, you need to be putting lime on your farm, or you hear from your agronomist, you need to put lime on. If you've never put lime on your farm, and you say, wait a minute, Grandpa never put lime on, my dad never put lime on, why do I need to put lime on? I don't know if that's a good thing. Don't be scared about lime. Lime is not something that you really need to worry about. What we're talking about is basically calcium carbonate. And so the main portion of lime is calcium, and that's something your crop needs a lot of. And we really take calcium for granted. When we look at our fertility programs, we're looking at nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, maybe even micronutrients are getting some of the attention right now. But calcium is one of those nutrients that has been taken for granted. We've got a lot of calcium in most soils, and you think, well, there's lots of calcium out there, but is that calcium available? That's one of the things that you're going to gain from lime. The other thing is you could correct an acid pH.
Okay, so let's talk first about human health. If you've ever taken an antacid, like Tums, for example,
if
when
you've
you look
had
on
Brian's
the label,
cooking, that's what you're saying. If you've had Brian's cooking, you've probably had to take an antacid.
All right, so when you look at Tums, you look at the label, what is in Tums? It's calcium carbonate. It's the exact same thing that we're putting on our soil. Calcium carbonate, what that will do is that will react with a low pH soil to correct the acidity in the soil. So the reason why the soil is acid is it has excess hydrogen. When you add calcium carbonate, the result is you're going to end up with more calcium in the soil, you're going to end up with water and carbon dioxide. That's the chemical equation or the resulting chemical reaction that happens.
And two of those three things are food for the plants, and the other one is water. So it's exactly what your plants need. And when you think about that, if you run the chemistry of what actually happens in your soil, all three reactions are good for your plant. And so it's not a big surprise that putting lime on the soil is going to be something that helps you. Now, the other side of this, and this one is more of a soil amendment side, we look at, all right, if I'm short of calcium and I need more available calcium, and my soil test shows my base saturation, which is a measurement of what percentage of the soil is held with calcium. If that's really low, you could put a bunch of lime out even in a high pH situation. Now, I realize we just said, well, wait a second, you use it when our soil is low pH or acid. You can use it to correct in a high soil pH a low amount of calcium that's out in the soil. So you could fix the available calcium levels by putting lime on in that situation too.
The other thing with lime, there are many different sources that you can get. There's a product called Pell lime that's very readily available, but there's also water treatment lime that we use on our farm, for example, that in some cases you can get for a very low cost and may be very good quality lime. What a farmer's looking for in lime is basically the fineness. So in other words, how small those particles are. The smaller the particles, the quicker that conversion happens of soil pH getting raised up. So the big thing we're looking for here, I don't care if we're talking farm ground, we're talking a garden, anything, we'd like to have that soil pH typically around neutral. Neutral is 7, so usually we're shooting for 6.3 to 6.8, something like that. And if the soil pH is very low, let's say it's 4 or 5 or even 5.5, you want to put lime on there to raise the soil pH. And the other thing is you want to take a look at your base saturation calcium percentage. We want that at least 65%. If it's less than 65%, quite commonly we're throwing lime out there to add calcium. So two different things that you might consider calcium for on your ground.
Well, neutralizing that soil pH is a big thing for crop growth. It could also help you fight off weeds. Can you identify this week's weed of the week?
Regalia RX biofungicide activates a plant's natural defense system, limiting the effects of disease and improving overall plant health. Regalia RX complements your fungicide program to optimize yield and strengthen return on investment. Ask your retailer for Regalia RX today.
We know that the future is liquid. That's how agriculture liquid fertilizer creates the highest quality products on the market. Because we're committed to finding the best raw materials at the best price possible and getting them from us to you in the most sustainable, responsible ways possible. Agriculture liquid fertilizers, helping you grow the future.
What if instead of running test plots on 10 acres, you could test on 10,000? With Farmers Business Network, the world becomes your plot trial. FBN is the independent farmer-to-farmer agronomic network. FBN connects real data from tens of thousands of fields and provides you trusted analysis on hundreds of seeds, practices, and field performance to maximize your profits. Find out how your field seeds and practices compare today by joining the FBN community at farmersbusinessnetwork.com. Just $500 per year for unlimited acres.
Wake up, breakfast is served. Your roots crave P. Most of your applied P gets tied up in the soil, a natural phenomenon known as phosphorus fixation. Fix the problem with Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Avail makes more P available to your roots, here, here, and here. Increasing P availability can lead to increased P uptake in the plant. That's more P, and more P. More phosphorus for your crop can mean more results in your bin. An average of 9.6 bushels per acre of corn. Breakfast is served. Supercharge your P with Avail.
When you need one machine that can do it all, you send in a Spartan, your all-in-one forage solution from Capello, USA. This direct cutting system is the right machine for almost any forage crop and gets everything done in a single pass, keeps your costs down. Always versatile, the Spartan can be configured to fit any self-propelled forage harvester in the world. So, no matter what you forage, send in a Spartan from Capello, USA. Italian craftsmanship, American grit.
Your time is valuable. That's why you need a Hagie STS application system. Hagie STS products are designed for precision and efficiency, allowing you to make applications all season long with just one machine. Contact your Hagie rep today.
One of the most challenging things on most farms is to understand the soil and what a farmer needs to do for fertility. So knowing this, just a year ago, here at Ag PhD, in conjunction with Midwest Labs out of Omaha and Farm Logic in Kentucky, we developed the Ag PhD soil test app. Today we want to talk about that just a little bit and what you can do right now to get yourself prepared for soil testing this fall.
Well, when we think about soil testing program for a farm, it's important to have a program. There isn't just one right system for everybody. On our farm last year, we took grid soil samples on all of our fields because of the changing economics in agriculture and where fertilizer prices were at. We wanted to do things right and we wanted to get maximum yield in our fields. We figured we'd need every bushel we could just to make it this year. So
well, yeah, but you talk about that economics, and that's really what it comes back to is we don't mind investing money in fertilizer. We just don't want to spend money or waste money on fertilizer. And what happens in a lot of cases, and Darren and I look at soil tests from all over the country and for that matter all over the world, and we see what farmers are doing for fertility recommendations, and we just say, whoa, why aren't you doing this? Couldn't you do that? And better spend your whatever, $100 an acre, $150 an acre. We want to put that investment into the right things. It's just like if there was some magic way to figure out, okay, in the stock market, I can take $100 and I can put it into just the right stocks and I can turn it into $300 by this fall. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
Well,
But the whole thing is,
I think it's totally different.
No, I don't think it is at all, because what I'm getting at is it's like you have insider information to the stock market. All of a sudden, you look at all the analysis of everything and you know, and you go, oh my goodness, this stock is going to do great. It's the same thing out in your field. If you knew best where to stick your money, then you have a much better chance to get a great return on investment.
Well, I think it's totally different, Brian, because stocks are unpredictable, companies are unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen. But crops and soils are very predictable. When we look at a crop, if we're completely short on phosphorus, we know what's going to happen to our crop. We're not going to get much yield. field. If we're completely short in a certain micronutrient, it could be the same thing. And so when we look at soil tests, we do know how plants are going to respond to different nutrients that we're going to be applying on that field. And there is a formula that you can use, and it's pretty simple to do too. For many years in agriculture, we've had soil tests and not really known how to read them. And I think if you just ask all your neighbors around you, hey, do you understand everything on this soil test? I don't know if you'd find a single one that'd say, sure, I'm completely confident in everything on that soil test. And that's one of the things that we've really been struggling with and trying to help people with is, look, this is predictable. These are just numbers. These are just nutrients for our crop. It's not that tough to understand. We just have to look at our soil tests and know a process to get through them. And it all starts with pulling a good soil test to begin with. So
but before we get to that though, Darren, when you say predictable, a lot of people right away are going to say, oh no, it's not predictable because we don't know what Mother Nature is going to bring. Look, here's the thing. You have to understand this. If you do a better job with fertility, your crop needs less moisture. It's much more drought tolerant. It's also more tolerant to bugs, to diseases, to weeds, you name it. We've got to get that fertility package going first. So yes, good drainage probably is ahead of fertility. But once you have good drainage, then hey, fertility is where you got to focus all your efforts.
All right, so it all starts with setting your fields up. And when we look at the free Ag PhD soil test app, you can go online, set up an account for free, set up your fields for free. And you can go in there, put each field in. So when we get to the time after harvest, when you're going to start pulling those soil samples, your fields are all set in there. You can set your grid points up in advance. You can adjust and move those grid points around, and then you can just go out to your field and boom, 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 pull tests 1,000 acres a day easily with one person.
Okay, so where you want to start is agphdsoiltest.com. You can go to this agphdsoiltest.com, you sign up for a free account, and then you set up your fields. And you can do it, and how we've done it is right off basically our FSA maps. Now you can create your own field boundaries, you can link fields together, whatever you feel like you need to do, and then you can go ahead and set your grid points. You can spin your grid points around. You can set it on 1 acre grids, 2.5 acre grids, 5 acre grids, whatever you want to do. But the whole thing is, okay, here we are in a lot of situations, like on our own farm, for example, we won't start harvest until around October 1st. So we've got some time yet, but you know what, that time goes pretty fast. So there's vacations and the kids are starting school and I'm getting the equipment ready for fall and all these things are happening. But what we're advising you to do is just take a day and sit down and decide which fields you want to test this year, and then get those grid points set up, get everything set and ready to go. So going into the fall, you're ready.
Well, and it's pretty simple. You can use your smartphone, follow the GPS on that. It'll take you right to those grid points out in your field. All you have to do is just click the button when you reach the point. It tells you how to label that sample, and it's important to do it this way. So as you send them into the lab, you have all your samples labeled exactly where they came from in your fields. Then you can use that data to very quickly and easily set up a variable rate prescription fertilizer map for your field as well.
The other thing that you can do when you're setting stuff up this summer is you can go ahead and order supplies, and you can even order sample bags that are going to have barcodes right on them. And the advantage to that is then you could scan the barcode when you're at that GPS point. And once you're out there in the field, then what we suggest is pulling 6 to 10 cores right at that grid point, mix those together and put them in the sample bag. Now, certainly there are some things that you can do to make sure you've got the very best sample. In other words, like when you're using your soil probe to probe straight up and down, and we'll talk about some of those things more this fall. There also is information on the website talking about how to sample right, how to set your grid points, and then some information on some of the new things that we're looking at adding here real soon. Zone sampling is one thing that we're kind of excited about coming forward with the Ag PhD soil test app, based on soil types, zones based on yield areas in your field off your yield map. I mean, those kind of things, you certainly can do that as well. So the reason why we set this up is, yes, there's a lot of information that we just want to make sure that farmers have the right information, but also just sampling techniques and being able to have grid points so easy right off your phone. It just can speed up that whole process, because the whole thing is, if you've got the right information out there, you're going to make a lot better decisions.
One other responsibility that you'll have this fall is controlling our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to do it coming up later in the show.
Some prefer to invest in fields halfway around the world, in short-term solutions to long-term challenges. At Poet, we're investing in the fields we have right here at home, cultivating communities and growing the local economy, creating new local jobs while we create worldwide energy solutions, helping family farms grow even as they fuel the world. Because we know that investing in a community can pay global dividends. See the world differently with Poet.
We've been dealing with AgriLiquid a little over 7 years. I was skeptical, to be honest, but I watched the results from several clients. Those results were increased production and reduction in input cost. With AgriLiquid, we saw an increase in the size of the initial root mass. For ranchers, that means forage production a lot quicker. AgriLiquid works. The bottom line is profitability.
Lost time and spilled product costs your farm money. The AgriLite conveyor system has one of the fastest product transfer speeds on the market with virtually no spillage. Over 10 feet of horizontal swing gives you the ability to dispense product with precision and eliminates any need to reposition. AgriLite conveyors are designed with ease of maintenance in mind and allows for complete installation or removal in less than an hour. Designed to save you what your farm needs most, time and money. AgriLiteTrailers.com. Lightweight, efficient, dependable.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us. But only Case IH offers a 5-axle design to give you a smoother ride, more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction. Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
For lower cost, higher production, Mandaco Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Twister's ease of maintenance is forgiving and rocks and has contour conformity equaling 0 downtime. Our hydraulically adjusted coulter angles make residue management easier, less costly. Spring or fall, the Mandaco Twister vertical tillage unit is the new leader. See your Mandaco Agri dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz or call.
Late season insects in soybeans, which ones are problematic? Which ones do you need to just forget about?
Well, there comes a point in the season where you say, man, I am done. I'm putting that sprayer away. I don't want to be out in the field anymore. Or maybe even say, I've invested enough in this crop. I don't feel like I want to invest anymore in the crop. But then again, if you've got a bug in your field that's clipping off pods, dropping those pods to the ground, how much yield are you going to get out of those pods? Nothing. They're killing you on yield. This is the point where your beans are there. Your beans are almost made. We can't afford to lose them now. So there is a point in the season where you've got to keep scouting, and that is right up until senescence. You may be only a couple of weeks away, and you still have to protect those beans from late season bugs.
Yeah, so we have seen many instances of soybean aphids moving in real late in the season, or maybe a second flush of aphids moving in late in the season, and we've still gotten significant yield gains spraying the 20th of August, for example. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's mid-August, there's no way we can affect yield yet. Yes, there is, depending on where you're at in the country and depending on how much time there is left. So a lot of soybeans do not get harvested until early to mid-October. Well, if it's mid-August, you're 2 months away yet. So it might be a month before your beans are turning color. And that just means there's lots of opportunity yet for yield to be added. With soybeans, a lot of the yield is made right at the end.
All right, so when you're out in your fields, it's important to carry a sweep net, do some scouting, see exactly which bugs you're gonna have in the field, because it may be grasshoppers, bean leaf beetles, Japanese beetles, who knows what it's going to be in your area, soybean aphids. Do some sweeping, see what you have for bugs. Then look at what the levels of those insects are, because it may cost you just a little bit more to spray later in the season. Figure in exactly, well, how many bugs are there and how much yield are they going to rob from my field, and then see if you can justify the cost.
Well, yeah, but the thresholds are going to be higher anyway, simply because we're later in the season. The later the bug gets to your crop, the less chance there is for disease to set in, the less chance there is for it to impact yield, unless, of course, like Darren said earlier, it's actually clipping the pods off. If you do decide to spray late in the season, you just have to make sure you look at the pre-harvest intervals for the insecticide you choose. Well, once again, make sure you continue scouting your soybeans all season long. You never know what bugs may show up and the damage they might do to your yield.
And one other thing that will definitely damage your yield is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week is Perennial Sow Thistle.
The first word there is really all you need to know, perennial weed. And what that means is it's a weed with a multi-year life cycle. So once you have a perennial weed, especially something like Perennial Sow Thistle, it's going to have rhizomes running beneath the ground, tillage is really not effective at controlling it. And I'll talk to farmers across the country, they'll say, well, if I see that, I'm just going to till that field up and that's going to take care of it. And yes, you are going to wipe out the top growth. The problem with tilling a perennial weed that has rhizomes is now you've chopped that root system up and it's going to shoot lots of plants up all over the place because each chunk of that root is going to try and shoot its own plant up. It doesn't want to die, so its response is, I got to shoot another plant up. And many times when you run over a patch of Perennial Sow Thistle with your tillage tool, you end up with what was a small patch now becoming 5 times as many weeds in that same area.
All right, when you're looking for a Perennial Sow Thistle, you got a bunch of spines on the plant, and the big thing is when you break it open, you're going to find the latex or milky substance coming out of it. And as Darren said, it's a perennial weed, so you're going to find rhizomes down below ground, unless you're just talking seedling Perennial Sow Thistle.
Okay, so when it's a perennial weed, one of the best products for controlling perennials is Roundup. And Perennial Sow Thistle is not resistant to Roundup. It just takes a very high rate because you've got to have a lethal dose to every one of those little growing points. And you may say, well, there's only 5 plants in the patch. That may be, but if it's been established for a while, it's got rhizomes running beneath the ground, there's lots of potential growing points along the way. So you've got to have a strong dose to go all through that root system. The other thing is, don't do any tillage. So if you're tilling up the whole field and you've got a little patch of Perennial Sow Thistle, lift up your tillage tool and leave that little part untilled until after you get that Roundup applied. That way the Roundup has time to get down through that root system to hopefully kill that plant completely.
A lot of times we see Perennial Sow Thistle in pastures. The interesting thing with it is it doesn't do well in coarse sandy soils. It also doesn't do that well if you have great grass growing. In other words, if you do everything possible to raise a great grass crop, you fertilize it right, you do rotational grazing, you might even control insects and diseases in there. Do everything possible to have great grass growth. Oh, one other thing I'd mention is plant growth regulators like Rise Up Smart Grass, for example, that we use early in the spring and late in the fall to get even more growth when it's really cool. So you do all those things, and a lot of times you might not even need a herbicide. That grass just chokes out your Perennial Sow Thistle.
A lot of people will just use high rates of 2,4-D, and you can burn it back, but you're not really going to get down into the root system. Adding some milestone in or using milestone instead of 2,4-D is an option.
Well, instead is a much better option, because if that 2,4-D, if you use it at all, it can shut the plant down before the milestone, or a product like Toradon or Roundup or something like that can get down into the perennial root system.
The other one would be Remedy. That's a very good option for getting down into that root system and controlling Perennial Sow Thistle as well.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week, Perennial Sow Thistle, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
Seeding cover crop requires attention to detail. In today's Iron Talk, I'll discuss how that can make a big difference on your farm. I spoke with a farmer recently who seeded a cover crop in 2014, only to see fallow syndrome in parts of his fields in 2015. His comment to me was, weren't cover crops supposed to eliminate fallow syndrome by keeping soil microbes alive? Well, it all depends on the cover crop blend you choose. Don't forget that some crops like radishes, for example, don't support mycorrhizae fungi that will help bring phosphorus into roots. For that reason, we always recommend a blend of cover crops to support the diverse population of soil microbes and to serve multiple purposes. The farmer in this case actually did seed a blend of 3 cover crops, but the seeding was very uneven as they were blended all together in one tank on the drill. There are 2 solutions to this problem. First, seed the ground twice. Put the smaller seeds in the drill and seed the field. Then come back with the larger seeds and run over the field again. A second solution could be to get a multi-hopper air cart to go behind your drill. This way you could keep each of the cover crops in their own hoppers, ensuring an even seeding across the field. Yes, cover crops can be a big help to the soil and future crops. Careful attention is needed, though, to spread the seeds somewhat evenly to maximize benefits and eliminate potential problems. With today's Iron Talk, I'm Darren Hefty.
Working in agriculture over the past 3 decades, I saw a need for an accurate way to apply dry product to seed. That's where our Changing Times applicators come in. The CT applicator brush sifts powder into small particles, resulting in proper distribution. Quantities can be adjusted by the speed of the brush rotation. This allows for even and accurate distribution of product. Application at the time of planting can be used with any seed delivery system and saves farmers time, labor, and money. Remember, CT applicators for the Changing Times.
Dirty work pays. That is if your dirty work includes a SoilMax Gold Digger tile plow. SoilMax tile plows feature zero deflection technology. With the only tile plow factory paired with Ag Leader's IntelliSlope control system, you eliminate the need for grade calculations and lasers. So make your next investment in a SoilMax Gold Digger. Better yield, longer planting and harvest windows, better water management is all yours with SoilMax. Visit soilmax.com.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots from Monsanto Bioag is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more, and is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Get Quick Roots today.
Stop coring your bins with the AgriDry Gravity Grain Spreader. Traditional bin filling systems create uneven concentrations of grain and fine particulates. Uniform grain distribution allows even airflow throughout the entire bin, giving you more control over temperature and moisture content, increasing your grain quality and bottom line. Call us today for more information.
Dry Load Store, 1-855-AgriDry.
Take a look inside any rotary combine, and you'll find single rotor technology. Technology Case IH introduced over 35 years ago with the axial flow combine. But unless it gives you more bells and whistles with fewer belts and chains, more power using less fuel, it's not an axial flow. Because while the heart of every rotary combine beats red, only Case IH gives you the power to do more.
What if instead of running test plots on 10 acres, you could test on 10,000? With Farmers Business Network, the world becomes your plot trial. FBN is the independent farmer-to-farmer agronomic network. FBN connects real data from tens of thousands of fields and provides you trusted analysis on hundreds of seeds, practices, and field performance to maximize your profits. Find out how your field seeds and practices compare today by joining the FBN community at farmersbusinessnetwork.com. Just $500 per year for unlimited acres.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show. You'll find us at 2 p.m. Central each weekday on SiriusXM Channel 147.
Don't miss the next Ag PhD television program. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
No one cares more for the environment than family farmers who plan to pass their land down to their children. To learn how they plan to do it, visit rnmf.org.